Okay.
Yeah.
It's the end of the week. How are you feeling about that?
Well, about the weather thing you were talking about, have you tried Abuja heat?
That's another one.
Oh, wow. Sometimes it's like you feel that the next time the chicken will be laying an egg, it's going to be a boiled egg.
It's going to be boiled
my
egg.
God. It can be that hot.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into this story. Also, to just mention, we're streaming live on YouTube and on Facebook, and it's on Facebook at FlowFMNG and on YouTube at FlowFM927. You can get on any of these apps, and you can get in on the live action happening in the studio right now. Onto the story. This is maybe I would call sad, I think. The story of the Lagos teacher that assaulted a pupil in Lagos, Stella Nwadigo, a teacher at Christ Method International School in Ikorodu, Lagos. She was arrested for physically assaulting a 3-year-old pupil. And she appeared before the magistrate, M.O. Kasanwa, the Ogba Magistrate Court, and then 2 charges were read to her, and she pleaded not guilty. And she was let go on bail.
Oh. Well, you see, that singular incident has elicited a lot of mixed reactions. A lot of mixed reactions, yeah. And it stems from this policy about corporal punishment in school. A lot of I think most state governments have outlawed it. Because according to policymakers, they feel it is inimical to education. But then the jury is still out. As much as possible, as far as I can, deduce on that policy direction, really, because there is this tendency in this part of the world, especially in Nigeria, where we tend to assimilate policies we are not really ready for. In fact, as a matter of fact, it's one of those things you call, it was described as isomorphic mimicry. This kind of a system where a government takes on the paraphernalia of as if it's functioning, whereas it takes on all those features from other functioning government, just to disguise the dysfunctionality within its system. We are talking of a decrepit educational system. You understand? All those places where things like that were brought were because you have an enabling environment for both the teachers and the learners. You understand? So at that point, the teacher is willing to be very, very patient. Go through the rigors of stimulation, reinforcement, and reward. Those are the philosophies behind education. They are willing, they have to be painstaking, and they are paid to be painstaking. Before you come on board as a teacher, there is enough psych eval that is done on you to see whether you have the right temperament to handle that kind of those kind of pupils. But you see, those things are practically absent in our system. In fact, most times when you see people go into teaching, it's because they can't find a job. So when they take up a job, such as taking care of a 3-year-old, imparting knowledge, imparting education, most times, some of these kids come with their own frustration, comes with their own problem as well. At the end of the day, you see frustration meeting frustration. At the end of the day, that is what happened in the case of that lady we are talking about. You understand? So when you look at the issues, really, it speaks to a lot of conflict in the way we perceive, we enunciate policies, sorry to be a bit zigzag. If you recall, recently, Bovi said something similar, and it sparked an outrage, that his son destroyed television 3 times. Instead of saying that the kid has some problem, had some issues, but he was just trying to say things that he doesn't really understand, honestly. You understand? Because, yes, I don't beat. I beat sparingly. I don't use corporal punishment. I use it sparingly, but I talk more because I make out time, and as much as possible, I've seen my kids, I nurture them from infancy and I talk more to them. You understand? So, but you see, there is a balancing act with my wife. She's more of the Cain type. You understand? So we strike a balance kind of, and as far as I know, the kids are well, they are doing well. And a lot of parents, that was the kind of home I came from. My dad was a pro when it comes to beating. You understand? But my mom is more of the soft type. So, it complemented and we turned out good. You understand? So there is, we need to, whenever we want to assimilate a policy, we should look at the system, look at our system, whether it can accommodate it. If not, you are going to be having this confusion here and there, like it just happened now. And it's going to be a controversy that it's not going to go away. It's going to be there for a while.
Well, looking at that situation, I quite agree with you where you said, well, sometimes do we have proper assessment of some of these recruits that we have into the teaching profession, which is which is very, very noble. But again, how rotten is this, and what kind of solutions can we prefer? Because this is not the first time. Remember the case in Ogun State, of last year, of a teacher who flogged the students
and then had to land in the hospital.
And then the child landed in the hospital.
Exactly. You see, it speaks to that thing I said. It was a state of mind of the teacher. Frustration. That is what I see. That is my reading of that, scenario. You understand? Like you rightly said, the most private schools are poorly regulated. Let us face it. Anybody can just set up a 3-bedroom flat. You set up a school. You understand? Yes, sometimes what it takes to start a small school might just be little, but you need to look at the background. Do a lot of background check on that person, where he has worked before, whether he has a proper qualification. Apply some aptitude test. Psych evaluation. Like I said, it's very key. You have to test. You have to look at, even his family. Is it the kind of person that has a family problem? Those are issues that you have to consider when you bring in someone to take to take pupils. If you have a case of somebody from home has issues with her own child, you understand, what you are going to have is transference of aggression into the workplace. So those are very, very vital. Because after all, we are talking about the futures of tomorrow. That's what we call our kids. So how you train them matters a great deal. The personnel you bring in to train them matters a great deal. And again, there is one key aspect that I think is lacking. If you look at this suburb thing, this free education thing, conscious effort is not made to bring in the private sector. Conscious effort are not being made to bring them in. When they schedule trainings for public schools, how much of the private schools do you incorporate? Into the training. Where you talk about this policy of not flogging, not using corporal punishment and things like that. How many seminars has Suburb in conjunction with UBEC in conjunction with State Universal Basic Education conducted with the private sector, private schools? How much of it has happened? You understand? So those are some of the things we're talking about. I don't know whether it's on this platform that I did say something that instead of building more schools, like most governments do, have they taken stock of some very good private schools that you can enter a kind of partnership with, like you did with the missionary schools? So that you can have, when you have an overpopulation in a secondary school, for instance, government-owned schools, for instance, you can take some pupils to nearby schools that have policies. Then you sit down. We'll be sending zonal, teachers, zonal, inspectors to look at your curriculum, see how you are doing things like this, see, evaluate these kids at the end of the term. On that basis, we pay you. On that basis, you can bring them in, you can capture them in whatever policies. This is just hypothetical. This is just, an idea. So these are some of the things that I think that federal and state government need to do, because education is on concurrent list, So
learning is, seen to be fun. But it's said to be fun.
Yeah.
And, this is not to say, but somehow we still must give it, to some private schools who actually hold on to that policy of no flogging, no caning, and then they try to impact other alternatives.
Yeah.
They try to impact, these learners and all. But with situations like this that we've recorded, And there's still so many cases like that are underreported.
Exactly.
So many.
Especially this particular case, it was just like a video that was taken sneakily that was, able to catch or capture, what was going on. There are so many other situations where it was not captured and nobody's reporting, nobody's saying
reporting.
anything.
Yeah, exactly.
And so this just speaks to parents actually making sure that the children talk to them about things that are going on in school, isn't it?
You see, that is another aspect again. The parent, a failure from the homes, especially parent, sometimes when these things that I see that the assignments, kids not, doing the assignment from home, they bring it to school, and it's a rampant problem. That tells you that there is poor supervision even at the home front. It's a very serious. In fact, it's one of the reasons why most parents now opt for private school, because they outsource their responsibility to teachers. You even have instances where after school hours, more than 3, 4, 5 hours, kids are still in those schools, and the parents are somewhere else doing their business without a care in the world. In fact, sometimes when most private schools schedule holiday holiday activities specifically because of parents, not necessarily because they know, their education is, they know that the kids need to have a break from school. But you see, most parents are the one who will go and put pressure on them because they don't want the kids at home so that they can go and look for money. You understand?
Do we fault the parents for that?
No,
because again,
they're
look
trying
at
to make money to take care of the children.
Really?
Still,
because it's a sensitive conversation that we must have.
We can't necessarily speak to parents on how to.
It's true. Do we blame the parents for some of these things?
Well,
because they can't sit back. You have a business to run. How do you, if you sit and fold your hand, how do you send a kid to school? How do you pay the kind of school fees that these private schools are demanding for a primary one, for a nursery one, Popio?
If I may ask, must you pay that expensively for primary school? That is another question.
On the public side, do we fall to the public schools? How much of attention? How much of reevaluation that do we have in the public school? Because a lot, a lot needs to be done. That's why.
Right.
That's why it does look like the class of citizens that we have right now. If you have a job, little job, you earn a certain amount of money, you're within a salary structural range. You put your kid in a private school. But if you look at, let's say, a petty trader, who's just trying, an artisan, put the child in the public school. This is not to say some artisans don't put their kids in private school. But again, you've seen that division that, it's not been said that public schools are meant for the lower, bottom.
Exactly, that is where
parents.
The problem is. Look, the thing is more of a perception thing. It's more of a status symbol thing. Especially for those who know they can't afford. No, my kid must be seen to be going to this expensive school. So he's willing to pay through his nose to put his kids there. He's willing to take on jobs that's going to deny him time, for those children, so that they can't be in that expensive school. When ordinarily what you need is something moderate.
Nicholas, please hold on.
Okay.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you. Welcome. This is the Headline News Review. What's your name?
My name is Oladele.
Oladele, it's good to have you. Please contribute.
Yeah. I'm really interested in the topic that is being discussed. Actually, about the teacher that was reported recently. I think she actually overstepped her boundaries. In as much as it's good to train up a child in a good way, the way she went about with the kid, we actually create a kind of scary euphoria in the kid that whenever school is mentioned, the kid will be frightened.
Exactly.
And that can have a lifetime bad effect on the child. I mean, the parents will be wondering that what's happening with him now. But if he's now even the type that doesn't speak, that is not very spoken liberally, the child will just be like frightened and they'll be like, oh, that affects him academically and we have multiplied effects. So I think she overstepped our boundary. But that doesn't mean that we should totally withdraw parenting in a child. Like, we cannot shy away from it. We are Africans. And this is the way in which some of us are raised. But there must be a balance to it. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Oladile. Thank you for your contribution this morning.
Yeah, that's a measured one.
Yeah. Let me also ask you this, based off of what Oladile has said. You know, if you look at the capability of and the ability of, pupils, learners, it's not the same.
It's not the same.
So what strategy should, the government or, consultants, educationists adopt in trying to impact, at the average or the other pupil who is not catching up at all.
Such a fast learner.
Who's not just a good learner.
Yeah, it goes back to that same thing we said. We just adopt a policy without looking whether we have the framework to support it. Now, like you rightly pointed out, you see, kids, when they come in 10s and 20s, they have different capabilities. Some are fast learners. Some are very slow learners. When they learn slowly, but once they grasp something, it's for life.
Yeah.
You understand? You have different mix of, abilities in these kids. So how do you put personnel who understands this? You understand? That is where the challenge is. And I think that is at the heart of what happened there. Maybe that teacher is a unidirectional kind of person, just one technique, one shoe fits all kind of person. Maybe she hasn't even gone for any retrainer, any fresher course in the last 2 decades or so. So you bring in that person, so the only thing she feels, the only way a child can learn is to slam the face or fling the child against the wall. So that is the kind of thing we are talking about. So it goes to say that there is a great need for reforms. TRCN has been doing a lot of, a sensitization, the need for people to have qualification, proper qualification, especially they are extending it to the private sector right now. And I think a lot has to be done by government to help. And what can they do? You see, and that is where you have another problem again. You need to create multiple areas where teachers can go and get a crash course on some of these things. You understand? See, NTI used to be very, very vibrant in those days. But all of a sudden, you don't see that is Nigerian Teachers Institute. Yeah. You understand? There's nothing wrong with them, with NTI coming up with a program, crash program. You understand? And make it, because education is a very big industry and very, very key to national development. So you should have a kind of maybe a postgraduate diploma for those who already have a degree, a top-up, for those who are in NCE so that they can qualify as a degree holders, because these days now for senior secondary school, you don't have NCEs anymore. It must be a BA, first degree. That is what so for those people, who studied perhaps English, geography, as first courses, single honors, how do they get, how do you fast track a program for them so that they can come in, so that where you now have crash courses like seminars and things like that, they are able to key in both at the public schools and private sector. That is what government need to start doing. And of course, in partnership with some of these private schools, honestly.
Before we move to another conversation real quick, I just wanted to ask real quick is that she pleaded not guilty. Does that speak to the fact that she doesn't feel like what she has done is wrong in any way whatsoever?
No. You see, one other thing that I should have said is that sometimes the video does not tell the entire story. You understand? It's what I have learned from experience. Sometimes you might see a video that appears terrible, but there are certain things you need to look at. I have learned not to be too categorical when I see things like that because it's still one-sided. You understand? So I need to hear her own side of the story, really. Is she in any way related to the kid in question? That's another thing. Because like we talk about this Human Trafficking Prohibition Act
and the Child Right Act.
The Child Right Act.
So even if the child is her own.
No. What I'm trying to say is that you cannot have a house help, a minor that is a house help, except that person is related to you.
Yeah.
You see, the philosophy behind that is when you apply, that is, you have a kinship, you have a relationship with him. So even if you apply discipline, it is assumed that you're applying it in love to correct that person. You understand? So that is the philosophy, that's the thinking behind that law. So that was why I said I don't know how related that teacher is with the parents. Maybe they've been having talks behind and things like that, and it's a case of a case of a problem child. Kind of. You understand? So when you look at, there are some instances where parents have handed a child over to a teacher and said, "See, I know you don't flog here, but here, me, write it. I gave you this cane to administer it on my child."
I thought they said that parents that say that it's not from their heart of hearts, the way they say it,
No, apparently you haven't seen some instances, some
Well,
real
we
cases.
we can quite agree with you. A lot of people, listeners, want to agree with you, but from the where they would disagree is, and where I disagree with you is from the video. The video says it all. Now you don't hit a child that way. As little as the child is, you could do some internal damages.
I know
to the child. That's extreme. So
it is.
On the power my colleague asked, she pleaded not guilty. Says a lot.
Yeah.
Like I said, those things that we have seen, it is quite disturbing. You understand? But I have learned over time not to be categorical. I have to look at the cases as it is. You understand? She said she's not guilty. I don't know why she said so. I need to listen to her.
Well,
why she said so, and perhaps run some background and see whether there are
been
minor. Not guilty from a minor. You doing that to a minor?
A 3-year-old.
No, Nicholas. If
she's in court,
Of course,
It's been
she's in
adjourned.
court.
It's been
Well, the
adjourned to
court
January
understands it
10th.
better. The court will deal with it.
It's been adjourned to January 18th, so wait till then
Okay.
to get two sides to the story.
Okay.
Let's move on to this conversation about the federal government saying that they promise to review the minimum wage in less than 2 years. And so we're looking towards 2027, 2026.
Less than 2 years. That takes it close to the election period, right?
Is it like do you see it like a strategy or something?
Well, everything is strategy, It can be both positive and negative.
Okay.
But then, NLC did say that they are looking at a situation where you do an annual review of the bill, or that is of the wage bill. The wage bill. You understand? And which is quite in conformity with economic realities. With what we've had in the last 3 decades of inflation, galloping inflation. When you say 70,000 naira in the next 1 year, it might just come down to 30,000 in terms of value. You understand? So definitely it is in order. But I think that 2 years is way too long. You understand? I think it should be an annual thing. Even 6 months, even, considering what is happening in the economy. You understand? So, but I think there should be a periodic review of some of these things so that, workers can at least get the value for money, and, it still goes back to that thing we are talking about, frustration in schools, all those things,
But it did take a couple of states a while to implement the 70,000 naira minimum wage. And so if you're saying periodic, change of it, how fast do you think states will be able to catch up with, the changes?
That is where the problem lies. But I think that with the last episode that we had, I think some lessons has been learned. So I'm willing to see whether those lessons that have been learned, governors will have learned that, look, you need to you have to be creative about generating revenue. Revving up your RVR so that you can meet the cost of, governance.
All right, let's take another contribution, please. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning to
I'm
you.
sorry, this is Oladele calling back.
All right, you're welcome back.
I just want to quickly chip in this. I would love a situation whereby the tenacity, the power that was used to publicize this wrongdoing should also be appropriated to those teachers that are actually performing well for a reward. Now, if teachers see that they are being rewarded for good work and as it's been talked about, just like this, the noise of this wrongdoing, I think they are going to turn a new leaf and they are going to want to do better and treat the kids well. Thank you.
You're welcome, Aladele.
And here I was thinking that teachers' rewards are in heaven.
Yeah,
Anyway,
they
that's a
usually
very
say.
good observation.
Let's quickly, conclude our conversation with this one, and it has to do from, our state. The PDP yesterday congratulated Governor Abdurrahman Abdulrazak on the commissioning of the first ever project completed by his administration. According to them, it says he marks a significant milestone in the state, and that's UC campus. Is it humor? Is there a bit of humor in what I said?
Oh yeah, exactly. You didn't see what he said.
Where is the humor here?
The humor there. I know you're pulling my leg, but I'll say it anyway. The humor is that what they are saying is that in 5 years, the governor has only completed one project. So that is the irony of what they are saying. Then of course, don't forget that that school was initiated by a PDP administration. So more or less, is that what you call sarcasm or irony? I think it's a bit of both. But these are some of the kind of things we are talking about, and that is quite good. That's a very, very cheeky and tricky one. I give them that. I give them a thumbs up for that. But those are the kind of things we are talking about. You understand? The meaning is not lost on a lot of quarants. But the jokes aside, the other aside, but I will give a thumbs up to the governor too. Because in his speech he said that this is just to tell you that he's not going to leave any project, any uncompleted project. You understand? So that tells me that this is a man who wants to continue with a previous project, whether he initiated it or not, and that's a very good one. I think he should continue. By the time PDB does it 2-3 times, they will get tired.
Well, the party also expressed concern that despite the completion of the OC campus structures, the administration has often focused on road patching, classroom painting, and renovation of existing infrastructure rather than initiating new ones.
Well, I think they should have been more specific about where those road patching happened. You understand? Because I know of road completions that the governor has done. You understand? Of course, there are issues of others that have not yet been completed, but they are captured in the budget. You understand? Of course, all these things have to do with money too. You understand? And so, when they do things like that, I think they should be more specific instead of just being general. You can't take one instance and use it to generalize. No, that is an unfair. That is unfair. That would be unfair on the administration. Yeah.
So you give a thumbs up to the PDP on congratulations.
Yeah, that is a witty one. That's quite witty, and of course, that is the beauty of democracy, beauty of speech, beauty of opposition politics. Yeah, we should have more of that.
All righty. Thank you a lot, Nicholas, for the conversation this morning. And that's how we concluded for the week. We're sure to be back on Monday from 8 to 8:30. But also, let's also give put this information out there that there are lots of conversations that Nigerians want to have. There's so many things that bothers a Nigerian, and of course, we have created a platform where Nigerians can come, vent, talk about what is troubling, what is disturbing about the country. We have Your Say. It's a new program that is bursting on Flow FM 92.7 every Friday. From next week Friday, you have a chance to freely speak about what is disturbing you about the country, what you find quite challenging. You just express yourself. Even in your local environment, in your local government, in your neighborhood, you have a chance to talk about it. So Have Your Say next week Friday from 10 to 10:30 a.m. That's the size of the headline news review this morning. We're back on Monday, God willing, 8 to 8:30. I am Adeyemi.
And I am Danielle.